Check 1, 2.
The first
check 1,
IM
two,
of the
check
day. Hey, folks, word from our sponsor with a simple but meaningful gift idea for your parents, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunt, your uncle, I don't know, your brother, your sister, family, friends, anybody who you want to keep in touch with, but don't necessarily want to talk with on a regular basis, but you want to share photos. And there is no better way to do it than with your Aura digital frame. The easy thing about Aura, you get, obviously, you have your app. I got, let's see, what do I got on here? I'm sharing stuff with my sister. Oh, this is, well, he won't allow me to see it, but it's actually it's a slow-mo video of Saul jumping up and grabbing a helium balloon for his birthday, showing that his vertical leap is about 2.5 inches. So, and that was
the
only way to get better at that.
Right.
Anyways, the point is, now his aunts and his grandfather can watch that a picture and check it out. The beauty about Aura frames, in addition to the fact they come with unlimited storage and simple controls on the frame, you can upload as many photos as you want. Your receiver gets to choose if they want to pick just one or whatever it is. But the beauty of this is you can upload these photos before the frame is even out of the box. And you can even preset the Wi-Fi password and name so that if you have someone who is technically challenged, they will have no problem. If they can plug it in, just the electric outlet into the wall, then they're going to be able to enjoy it. And that's why it's named the #1 digital frame by Wirecutter Strategist and Wired Magazine. Right now, you can save on the perfect gift that keeps on giving by visiting auraframes.com. For a limited time, listeners can get $20 off their best-selling frame with code MAJORITY. That's AURA frames.com. Promo code MAJORITY. Terms and conditions apply. And now, time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, executive editor of the American Prospect, David Dayen, on that huge real estate agent lawsuit that very well may help alleviate some of the rise in housing costs, or may not. We'll find out from him. Also, today is primary day in 5 states across the country, and one state which very well may decide the balance of power in the Senate in 2025. White House and the House close to a deal to avoid a government shutdown. UAW files for election at that VW plant in Chattanooga. This is the third time in 10 years. And this time they've got at least 70%
Great news.
signatures on card checks. Meanwhile, at the Supreme Court, Sam Alito extends the order prohibiting Texas from usurping the federal government on immigration. And John Roberts ignores Peter Navarro's appeal, which is basically a direct ticket for Peter Navarro to head to jail. Supreme Court justices also must now, and this is an incredible burden, disclose the value of free trips that have been given to them.
This is not what the founders intended.
Getting away between friends.
Speaking of free trips, Donald Trump cannot find someone to loan him the over $450 million he needs to pay off his fines in the New York State case. And now he's trying to negotiate down his fines.
I don't think that's how that works.
I guess we're going to find
the
out.
art of the deal, baby.
Joe Biden supposedly sort of redlining, sort of, but not really, a Rafah attack. Meanwhile, famine considered now imminent in northern Gaza. And on the national scene, countdown until Republicans bemoan the loss of freedom in the new white asbestos ban. Sorry, Republicans. You're going to have to get your mesothelioma on the black market. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Newsday Tuesday.
Yes, and I am still basking in the glow of being able to say mesothelioma. I couldn't say it twice.
Did
but
you
I
do
did.
it there?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't do it the second time, but I did it the first time, so that's all I care about.
You may have done it the first time. We'll have to go back to the tape for
I
that.
don't need to do that.
Challenge
Let's
flag.
not get picky about that. I got a lot to get to today. The first is that Donald Trump was on the Salem News channel. I guess that's a
That's Hugh Hewitt's
is this
network.
a video channel? This is Salem News used to be Salem Radio. Maybe they've now expanded it and they're
So I
doing
believe
video.
Prager, Hugh Hewitt, and Gorka operate on this channel, but it was
Well,
radio at
Salem
some
has
point.
been a big radio name for quite some time. I will be honest, and I don't mean anything by this. I thought that Seb Gorka had passed.
Giant
For a
eyes.
long time, we spent a lot of time talking about Seb Gorka on this program, and I would have thought that I would have been aware if he was still alive, and I thought he had passed. So I'm, first off, happy to hear that he has not passed.
Really?
Nah.
That's just something you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just came out that way.
For me.
I don't honestly care.
Right.
But one way or the other, frankly. But I am glad he's there to host this interview, because it would have had to have been someone else if he hadn't.
Smaller
And
head.
it's a good reminder that, it's just shocking how unrepentant Biden has been for the most part until recently as a supporter of Israel in the midst of their slaughter. But that Donald Trump's opinions on this matter are even crazier.
Here is Donald Trump on with Seb Gorka.
Could you explain why is it seemingly that this administration, including Chuck Schumer in the Senate, so hate the man that Israel chose as their prime minister? Why do the Democrats hate Bibi Netanyahu?
I actually think they hate Israel.
Yes.
I don't think they hate him. I think they hate Israel. And the Democrat Party hates Israel. And the Democrat Party, if you remember, when many Israeli representatives, including Netanyahu, when they came to the country begging, at that time President Obama, please don't make the Iran nuclear deal, which is a disaster and was a disaster. And I ended it. But unfortunately, they didn't do anything with the ending of it. I ended it and would have had a new deal made with Iran. It would have been good for everybody, and there would have been no nuclear weapons. You know, they're very close to getting a nuclear weapon right now.
Yes.
And once they have that, it becomes
Pause
a
there for 1
different,
second. I mean, I know we got just a little bit here, but I just need to clear the air. The deal was to inhibit their acquisition of a nuclear weapon. It did inhibit their acquisition of a nuclear weapon. In fact, it appears that Iran is still not pursuing a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you cannot do something to prove that you're not doing something. Now, the deal that the Republicans wanted at the time was an all-encompassing deal, which would have inhibited or attempted to inhibit and curtail Iran's funding of proxy fighters and, in some instances, terrorist groups, et cetera, et cetera. And that would have been the next thing to approach as you start to build trust and build rapprochement between Iran and the international community. But of course, that was destroyed by Donald Trump. And Joe Biden has yet, and it was supposed to be something that supposedly he was going to do early on, reforged that deal. And, you know, in the wake of what we've seen in terms of Biden's blind support for Israel, one has to reevaluate as to why he didn't get back into that Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is also coming at a time where we're watching Iran, and it is quite clear, and there's been, I think U.S. intelligence has made this clear too. Iran had no forewarning of what happened on October 7th. They were not providing any type of intel or weaponry in that instance. And Iran has been pretty good about not engaging and not taking the bait in this situation, and has communicated that largely to its proxies. So if there's anybody who's not out of control in this situation, and I don't, have any, I don't have any particular interest in the Iranian regime, obviously, for some obvious reasons. But in terms of this conflict,
Context.
if anybody has been acting responsibly, it's the Iranians.
They were responsible as well in not responding belligerently to Trump himself assassinating a top military commander in Qasem Soleimani during his tenure as president. Part of why we pulled out of the Iran deal, by the way, was Netanyahu did some BS PowerPoint presentation alleging with very little evidence to put public pressure on the Trump administration, which worked.
All he had to say was the progressives are being regressive.
Right, exactly.
And,
yeah, showing that they were with no evidence, and we now know how frequently Israel and Netanyahu lie, that they were manufacturing a nuclear weapon. It wasn't true.
Close to getting a nuclear weapon right now.
Yes.
And once they have that, it becomes a different form of negotiation, a much more difficult negotiation. But I really believe they hate Israel, and they also see a lot of votes. Don't forget, when you see those Palestinian marches, even I'm amazed at how many people are in those marches. And guys like Schumer see that, and to him it's votes. I think it's votes more than anything else, because he was always pro-Israel. He's very anti-Israel now. Any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion. They hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves, because Israel will be destroyed. You have Iran now making a nuclear weapon. None of that would have happened with me. That's a big thing. With me, Iran was broke. They were absolutely...
Okay. Well, Iran is not making a nuclear weapon. And the Pope of the Jews... this is he and Ben Shapiro are going to have to fight it out to see who gets to say who the good Jews are and the bad Jews.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of this situation that we're in is because of Donald Trump and his stupid fail son and law, bungling the situation to such a degree with the Abraham Accords, which created a situation where the Palestinian people were so desperate that it led to, and this has been widely recognized at this point, the Hamas attack on October 7th, which was Trump and Jared Kushner and his whole crew. And by the way, Chief Neocon, who wants war with Iran, John Bolton, was a part of the administration as well. They circumvented the Palestinian people to push forward normalization through the Abraham Accords between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Another piece showing the Palestinian people that we don't really care about your plight. We will go around you to other Arab countries to normalize the situation. And Biden has continued that foreign policy. But for Trump to come out here and claim that he would have been handling the situation any better, his exact pro-Israel Zionist foreign policy led to the conditions that created October 7th and the subsequent genocide.
Well, you hate the Jews.
Well, that's been well documented.
Self-hating Jews.
Just like his policies has made the border worse. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I supposedly fixed something that I need to get back in and fix, which is still a crisis.
Self-hating Jews. All of
you hate your religion.
I'm such a self-hating Jew that I'm not even a Jew.
You don't even identify as Jew.
You're right.
That's how much of a self-hating Jew you are. In a moment, we'll be talking to David Dayen, executive editor at the American Prospect, on this. This is something, actually, I wonder if it would have come up in Vegas at the Tort Conference. I'm going this year in early April, but just for one day of broadcasting because I got to get back. Somehow this time it's when I got Saul, and it's complicated. But we will talk to David Dayen about this big lawsuit that is going to change the nature of real estate commissions in this country in a moment. But first, want to say a word from our sponsor. If supporting foundational health was a sport, you would want Ritual on your team. They made Essential for Men, which is a multivitamin that's based solely on science and designed to help fill common nutrient gaps in the diet with 10 key nutrients. They are 10 key nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules per day designed to dissolve later in the small intestine, an optimal place to absorb nutrients. But also, the other thing about that is, because it's delayed released, you can take it. This is one thing that I found that is huge for me, is you can take it on an empty stomach. In other words, my biggest problem has always been in maintaining any type of vitamin ritual. My doctor says to me, you're low in vitamin D, or you're low in this. And then I'm like, okay, this time I'm really going to do it. I'm taking a multivitamin. I take it, it runs out. I forget to take it ever again. Also, the other problem with taking it is that, I got to eat something first. I'll do it when I get lunch, or I'll put it in my pocket. It'll dissolve. It'll be gone. And then it doesn't work. The beauty of Ritual is that, among some other attributes about it, but from my perspective, which is all sort of just completely pragmatic, is they have subscription service. So you can get it when you run out and you never forget to refill it. And B, you can take it at any time because it's easier on your stomach. So as soon as you remember to take it, you can take it instead of having to sort of go oh, I remembered now, but then I haven't eaten. The other great thing about Rituals is basically what's in it. They work with world-class certification bodies to validate their products. Their Ritual multivitamins are vegan, non-GMO, project verified. They are gluten and major allergen-free. They're a certified B Corporation and made traceable. In other words, they know where their components are coming from, and they make it available to you to know where you're getting your vitamin source from. Ritual uses scientific tools to select lower carbon packaging. They prioritize sustainability, sourced ingredients, and set ambitious climate goals. Ritual is a female-founded B Corp, meaning they're holding themselves accountable to not just their company's financial health, but also to the health of people and our planet. Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company you can actually trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/majority. Start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/majority for 25% off. We'll put that link in the podcast and YouTube and descriptions, as well as at majority.fm. And also a sponsor today, product that I used this weekend. Because, folks, I think it's quite obvious, not as young as I used to be. After a night with drinks, I do not bounce back like I used to. And basically, I got to make a choice. I'm going to have a great night, or I'm going to have a great next day. Well, now I drink a little bit of a vial of Z-Biotics on nights where I know I'm going to be drinking. And it fixes that problem for me. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to help you feel better in the morning after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. So Z-Biotics produces an enzyme which breaks this byproduct down. You just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. You drink this before you drink anything else. Then you drink responsibly, and you will feel your best tomorrow. It makes a huge difference to me when I drink Z-Biotics.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget to do it, and I'm really bummed that I.
And then you remember.
And then I remember. But it really, honestly, like there are times where during the week, maybe I'll go to like, well, it rarely happens, but I did go to like one cocktail party not too long ago. And, you know, it doesn't take too many drinks for me to get not feel great the next day. Took the Z-Biotics beforehand, did the show. And
bingo, bango.
Bingo, bango. It was super easy. But also, like, you know, it's very hard for me to maintain a exercise regimen. If I feel a little sick from drinking the night before, I'll blow it off. No longer. One bottle of Z-Biotics is equal to the cost of a cocktail, and maybe even less in New York City. But nothing beats the price of a fresh morning. Go to zbiotics.com/majority to get 15% off your first order when you use majority at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. All right, quick break. Again, we'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions, as well as at majority.fm. Quick break. When we come back, David Dayen, executive editor at the American Prospect. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, the executive editor of the American Prospect and one of the hosts, if not the host, of the American Prospect. What is the name of the show? Rival to Majority Report?
Well, it's called the Weekly Roundup. We've been doing it on Fridays for about a month, and really, to be honest, we are following in your footsteps. We decided to do it after I saw from visiting your studio just the obscene amount of money that can be made from a live streaming show. Yes. I mean, I don't know that you need a chocolate fountain in the office, but you have one.
Oh, you do.
What else are you going to spend the money on?
Yeah, no. You need the chocolate fountain.
I think it's neat that you have one staffer dedicated to just cutting your celery sticks. I don't know that that's
and
important,
another one
but
to dipping them in the chocolate.
that's right. That's right. So, you know, my entire career, I've gone where the money is. And, you know, the insane vaults of cash that you're drawing in from this operation just pointed me in that direction. So what am I going to do?
I could see already. Look at you sporting these fancy new ear pods.
I mean, you're dressing. You're dressing like Sam too here, huh? You're stealing our whole damn flow.
Next week. The gold tooth goes in next week.
Right behind me here, you can see. Right behind me. Well, one word for you: IKEA.
Oh,
that's where you get those bad boys. That's right. Okay. So, little pro tip. That's where the big cash comes in.
We decided that we wanted to have a sort of a place for our members and be wherever they are. You know, people like to watch this stuff on YouTube, so we want to bring that to them. So that's why we're doing it.
Right. I mean, word I've heard is that they prefer it at Friday at 3 p.m. But as opposed to 12:30. But that's all right. I mean, that's. You don't want to listen.
That's a little late. That's a little late in the afternoon, but
not on the West Coast. Not on the West Coast.
I mean, I don't see it as competition. I see it as a community, a community that's being built up.
Marin and I did a show at 3 p.m. and I will tell you, it is a ghost town.
Oh, glad you came clean about that.
Yeah. No, we'll see. I thought if I could convince them to move it to 3, that would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into. There's actually two things I want to talk about. You've written about both these in the past day or two.
All right.
But first, I've heard a lot about like on Instagram in particular. You know, who knows why it's been serving me up on the algorithm, because I'm not looking to buy or sell a house, but commissions. This is a big lawsuit, and I like this story because it highlights the role of plaintiff attorneys and tort lawyers in terms of the gaps that they fill within our sort of regulatory systems or our policing systems, and even within the context of antitrust, which is, I know, one of the reasons why you liked it. All right, so tell us how this story developed and what it's about here.
Well, I mean, you have to go back to the Sherman Act. The Sherman Act of 1890 has a role for a private right of action. So private attorneys general all over the country can say, hey, there's monopoly power being used, there's price fixing going on.
And it's not literally private attorney generals. It is lawyers.
That's a nickname for it.
Right.
Yes.
But it's plaintiff lawyers or trial lawyers who are representing a class, essentially, of people who have been dealt this. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's correct. And so in this case, since the 1990s, the standard commission on real estate sales has been 6%. And that's usually split between the buyer and the seller's agents.
Paid for by the seller.
Paid for by the seller, but also kind of paid for by the buyer. And you know, I mean, I'm sure if for a lot of your audience, I mean, for a lot of people out there, you know, just thinking about buying a house is enough of a dream. Should I be worried about the 6% commission, right? But you should, because it also affects the price of housing, in my view. The percentage is a percentage of the sale. The 6% is a percentage of the sale price. In other words, the more that prices of housing go up, the more money that your real estate agents make. And the real estate agents are the ones who guide you on how much to offer for a house. They guide you on how much to list the house at. So they are self-interested, right, to increase those offers and increase those list prices because it literally affects how much money they make on each sale.
Well, I mean, and let me just ask, or just really quickly, David, does it affect, because there are brokers and real estate agents when it comes to rentals as well. Like here in New York City, they can charge, and I know this is probably more city-based, but they can charge anywhere from 8 to 10% of your entire lease as a broker's fee when they just like give you the lockbox code and say, go see the apartment yourself. This could maybe have a chilling effect on some of those other exploitative practices potentially.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Damn it.
Don't have enough. I don't really have enough information to make a determination on that. But what I can tell you is in real estate, the issue is that the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of large brokers have set up these conditions that mandate the 6% commission. And one way they do it is they control what is called the multiple listing service, or the MLS. And if you're on Zillow, if you're on Redfin, and you're looking for houses, which, used to be the province of the buyer's agent, only the buyer's agent had, the listings of what the houses were. Now everybody has it because of these websites. So why do we need a buyer's agent is the question. But the only way that you can get your house on the MLS as a seller is if the agent stipulates specifically that how much of a commission they're going to give the buyer's agent. So this is collusion, right? This is the seller's agent saying, I will give you part of my fee, and that is the condition for which I will list this home so everybody can see it. And so the seller's agent has to do that. The buyer's agent then knows, okay, this house is listed, which means I know what amount of money I'm getting. A house that's unlisted, that's a for sale by owner, for example, I don't know how much I'm getting. So the buyer's agent can steer their customers away from homes where they get a smaller fee for that price. And so this has been in place for a long, long time. And finally, some plaintiffs' lawyers put together a class in Missouri that said this is an illegal price fixing conspiracy. And they won the case. And they won the case with an insane verdict that was given by a jury of $1.8 billion. And that was just for sellers of homes in Missouri, right? This is not the whole country. $1.8 billion. And because it's an antitrust case, you can triple the damages. So the judge could put that at $5.4 billion just for Missouri. This ended up, that verdict came out last year. It ended up spurring a bunch of copycat cases. The National Association of Realtors was on the hook for tens of billions of dollars, which they don't have. And so what they did was they settled this case just last Friday for, I think, $418 million. But more important than that, they said, okay, we will end this rule that in order to get listed on the MLS, you have to split the commission. And what this is going to likely do is create new standards in the industry that will dramatically drop the amount of commissions that sellers pay and to a certain extent buyers pay. And that is likely, according to economists that have looked at this, to be a 30% reduction in these fees. By the way, the US pays the 6% commission. In the UK, the commission is more like 1%. So we have the highest commissions on real estate in the world. And this ruling and the settlement is going to likely bring those more in line with the rest of the world, which means a savings of about $30 billion for people who buy and sell homes. This is $100 billion a year business, real estate commission.
Nobody does middlemen like we do middlemen here. I mean, all this sounds like, like managers in show business, and then all of a sudden, like sort of the double dealing that happened with, the manager becomes the executive producer, and all of a sudden they're working both for the buyer and the seller at the same time, essentially. Yeah. All right, but okay, so how let's talk sort of like practically what we can maybe expect, because the seller is still responsible ostensibly for 3% of the seller agent. Or I mean
maybe.
Do we know how this let's put it this way. Is there going to be any standardization? Because like I know in New York City, it is it's been that 3%. But if you go upstate, you can have the option of paying your seller broker and hiring them and getting some type of exclusive deal with them. And I don't know if they end up getting the commission or not at that point, but it's a different relationship that's not available, I think, in like New York City. So I don't know what it is in other places.
I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in this industry, and you know, the example to look to is travel agents. I mean, we don't really use them anymore unless you're a large business that is conducting a great deal of travel. There really aren't a lot of travel agents out there. And that is because companies sprouted up and said, hey, you can book this and we'll make it real easy and you can book this on your own. I think that's the kind of thing that you're going to start seeing with respect to the buyer side of the business. So you could see a buyer agent put up an offer of, hey, I'll do this for a flat fee. $2,000. I'll do it for a flat fee. And that would be a tremendous savings. They're going to undercut that competition because there actually will be competition now. I think the buyer is going to have a lot of better options than now. It won't seem like better options because the buyer will have to pay that maybe upfront. And make an arrangement with their agent up front, whereas now they just hire an agent and they kind of feel like they don't pay them. But they do, because it all gets folded into the price of the sale.
Right.
And so these commissions are a portion of that sale price. So what you're likely going to see is the sale price come down.
So if I've been looking at a house for, whatever it is, $250,000, and this comes out, this ruling comes out and they've made this change, theoretically, I'm looking at that thing and it should all of a sudden be like $10,000-$15,000 less or something like that, right?
And I think that the dynamics of the market are such that is what's going to happen. And so it's really a reduction of fees, junk fees, you could say, on real estate sales, but it will look like a reduction of prices in the cost of homes.
But isn't this like in terms of like it's, and I just read too that we are at the peak of housing unaffordability in this country in like maybe in decades, maybe ever. But here's the problem with that. I'm a buyer. I'm going to buy a house for $250,000. All right. You tell me now it's going to be $240,000, but I got to put out, let's say, $1,000 for a buyer's agent. I got to pay that $1,000 up front, or I got to put it on my credit card. Whereas yesterday, when that house cost $250,000, I'm going to get a 7% loan. That $10,000 is going to be paid for via a 30-year mortgage. I'm going to have 30 years to pay that off. Now, this is an upfront cost. Like, I'm not convinced that this is going to impact the affordability of housing, frankly.
Well, it depends on what the models are for where this comes up. I do believe that you're going to see tens of billions of dollars taken out of the system. The question is where that ends up getting paid back. It's no guarantee that you're going to have to pay it up front necessarily. There could be contingency arrangements where they fold that cost into the closing of the deal, and then the buyer takes that cut out, much like it is now, only at a much lower rate, a more competitive rate with more competitive offers. The buyer could say, okay, this guy would give you 3% commission at the closing. I'll give you 2. I'll give you 1. And I think that we're going to see two things that we know that are going to come out of this: lower fees baked into the sale price, and fewer real estate agents. Now
Right.
that might seem like a bad idea to people because we have I think 3 million people who are registered as real estate agents in America. The National Association of Realtors has 1.5 million active real estate agents, and we're not going to have as many. You know, there aren't going to be people who supplement their side income by selling 3 houses a year, right? This is going to be a much more professionalized business. And that might sound not great to people. Like, hey, 1 million jobs are going to go away because of this. I don't know if that's the number, but you know, a lot of jobs are probably going to go away because of this. But those jobs are middleman jobs. They are not, you know, economically productive things in the economy. I don't think that we should, for the sake of job creation, maintain middlemen that skim off the top of people in the economy.
I would add one more benefit to that too. The fewer people who are making money off of these transactions around housing, the easier it's going to be long-term or even midterm to reduce the cost of housing. I mean, it's just the bottom line. Like, it's the same sort of theory. True. When I was in show business, I was just like, the more people who are making money off of me, the more money I'll make. And that's just sort of like what, you know, if I knew I had an agent and a lawyer and this, and they're all getting a percentage, they're all going to jack up my price that it costs for me to get hired. And I'm going to make more money.
It's not only true in that capacity, but it's also true if you think about the sort of political economy of this. So the National Association of Realtors is a very powerful lobbyist. If there are housing affordability bills in Congress, they are not necessarily in the interest of the National Association of Realtors. They will work against them. If the National Association of Realtors essentially disintegrates as an organization, which it's certainly going to weaken in terms of its power and influence, that's probably a good thing for housing affordability down the road.
100%. 100%. You have just, I mean, and that's why it was so great about these plaintiffs' attorneys going and doing this, because the National Association of Realtors, I think you mentioned this in your piece, they can't go and lobby these lawyers and say like, hey, you shouldn't do this. You know, here's some, we're going to wine and dine. No, the lawyers are going to be like, no, we're doing this. And that's it. They're not, you know, they're not some congressman or something like that who sits on whatever it is committee that would oversee this. And it's also great to see how much of the renewed antitrust that's in the air in terms of the government do you think influenced the perspective of these? Like, is it, you know, because I know it's impacting judges, right? Like, judges are hearing more of these cases. They're having to read into it more. They're educating themselves in a way that they hadn't educated themselves for decades because of the prevailing sort of like perspective on antitrust in this country. Do you think plaintiff attorneys are doing that too?
I mean, this case came out in 2019. This initial case was, you know, during the Trump administration, before this sort of renaissance took root. It's actually kind of an old school antitrust case, right? This is about price fixing. This is not, you know, some operatic theory of harm that Lena Khan wrote in a paper somewhere, and then we're moving it into the
you still have a landline, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I mean, I'm just curious about that.
It's not a landline. Well, look. Until we get established with our large operation,
you can't afford one of these wireless
Fridays,
phones.
I can't afford one of these newfangled.
Wait, what is it then? It's not a landline. It just sounds like a landline.
It's my phone. It just sounds like a landline.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is an old school price fixing conspiracy. So it's a place that I think is very comfortable for antitrust lawyers and also antitrust judges. Now, this case was heard by a jury, which was completely offended by it and decided to put this huge verdict forward. But I mean, to address your point more directly, I do think that there is a feeling in the air that this new aggressiveness on antitrust is wearing off, particularly on lawyers entering the profession. I mean, there have been great stories about the tours of colleges that Jonathan Cantor and Lena Khan have gone on, and they're treated like rock stars in these law schools. And you're seeing this new generation of young lawyers who are really fascinated by this new perspective on corporate power. And so I think that's going to pay dividends decades into the future. I don't know that it's necessarily applicable to this.
I got you. I may go back to law school. All right, just briefly, 2 minutes. Speaking of old school antitrust, Google wants Apple to have their AI be the default on Apple devices. It's amazing because Google literally just lost a case where they were doing this with their search.
Well, they haven't lost the case yet. They're in the middle of an antitrust trial right now that is going to resume in May with the federal government, with the Department of Justice, over making exclusive deals with companies like Apple to embed Google as the search engine, the default search engine on your mobile device or on your browser. And so now they're in talks. They haven't done anything yet, but they're in talks for another exclusive deal with Apple to use their Gemini AI technology in these iPhones. This is like you robbed a bank, you're awaiting trial, and you go back and rob the same bank. That's what this is like.
Well, do you think they're just doing this just to try and overwhelm the Department of Justice? I mean, why would they make this public? Why would you even know about this? Why wouldn't these be super secret talks?
I'm sure it wasn't their intention to make it public, right? They didn't come out. Bloomberg reported this because they got word of it. Apple's perspective is they need to move. Apple is falling behind in the AI race. Google has already put this technology on Google Pixel phones, Samsung phones. They need to catch up. So Apple's perspective is very clear. The question is why Google would do this when they're already under legal scrutiny for the same practices. And here you have to think about the fact that you might be aware that we have a presidential election in 8 months.
I've heard things.
If the current front runner in that election, the current even money favorite, wins, right, the enforcement picture will look a fair bit different than it does now. And this, by the way, is what happened in the Microsoft case. In the late 90s, the Clinton administration pursued the Microsoft trial. They got a favorable judgment. And then there was turnover, and George W. Bush's Justice Department came in, put together a very weak settlement with Microsoft. And you could see the same thing happen here. This case that I'm talking about, the Google search case, it's not going to be done by the time of the 2024 election. So if there is a change in power, it's going to be Trump's Justice Department. If that comes to pass, maybe that's the least thing we should worry about is the Google trial verdict, the implications of that. But that's what's going to happen. They would be the ones adjudicating what ends up ultimately happening. They can move to a settlement or whatever. And so I think not just Google, but a lot of companies are looking at this and saying, hey, we don't like Lena Khan, we don't like Jonathan Cantor, but we might not have to deal with them come January 2025. And so maybe we start up those talks again with to merge with this company or these partnerships or whatever it is, because we think that the regulatory environment is going to get a lot sweeter for us.
Right. When Trump gets into office, he's going to basically say, enough with this antitrust stuff. We need to go back to prosecuting brown people full time in the Department of Justice.
I mean, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But what we know from what we saw last week with the TikTok thing is that Trump is one bribe away from completely changing whatever view he has and going with the views of the individual or company that bribed him. And so Google has a path, just like any company has a path, to get Trump on their good side. And they know exactly how to do it.
I want to thank Google for floating the bond for that I couldn't.
Right.
Exactly. Well, David Dayen, always a pleasure. I will watch your American Prospect Roundup after the fact, of course, because we're doing the show.
David, there were easier ways for you to get out of your Friday appearances with us and start a whole new show.
Because you have so much money, you could start an AI bot to do your Friday show.
Oh, and believe me, I'm looking into that. I'm looking into that right now. Believe me. For all you know, this is a program right now.
I have no idea. I really don't.
See? Yeah. There you go.
I've seen a couple of glitches.
You froze right now.
The AI was shadow banning
exactly.
you.
You're not allowed to reveal. That's your primary function, and it will shut you down.
How many fingers do you have on your hand there, Sam?
You're right.
All right, David Dayen. Always pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, David.
All right, folks. We've got a couple other things to get to before we head into the fun half. That is, today is primary day in 5 states around the country: Arizona, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, and Ohio. There's some couple of interesting races, I guess, that are happening there. Some special elections as well, but the big one is in Ohio. We have played some clips of Donald Trump attending a rally for Nardo 1967F, I think it is.
Yeah, something like that.
And to be fair, that is not his real name. We are talking, of course, about Bernard Marino, who was the alleged victim of a classic prank that an intern would do who's working for you.
I think I saw this on Candid Camera.
Look, every time we bring an intern into the office here, we've had some over the years. One of the first things I ask them is like, hey, would you feel comfortable pranking me? And if the intern says yes, I'm saying, well, but I'm talking real prank. Like, would you put me, do a fake profile of me up on Grindr? And if the answer is no, of course I wouldn't do that. I'm the intern. It would be weird. Then I'm like, goodbye.
Yeah. And then the second round you ask, would you go to my parents' home to make this account so that the prank could go that many levels deeper? And would you also use perhaps a nickname that is a shortening of my first name just to make the prank that much more salient?
That
You've got to commit to
go without saying. Look, if you're going to do that prank, you don't do it from your home.
Yeah.
You do it from, let's say, my folks' home. So you got to do that from you go to Worcester and do it. And so because
you only want to intern if they're willing to take extreme liberties with the boss's privacy.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing.
As a joke.
And then afterwards you claim it was only up for 6 hours, which shows that it was a prank, as opposed to I'm visiting my folks in Worcester and I'm just interested in what happens in short term in Worcester, and after 6 hours I got enough responses. Who knows? The point is, here is a rally with Ohio Senate candidate Bernie Moreno, who very well could be, he's in the lead, could be the primary challenger to Sherrod Brown, whose interns have really no sense of humor
exactly.
whatsoever. Go ahead.
I want to clear something up for everybody here. I am so sick and tired of Republicans that will say, I support President Trump's policies, but I don't like the man. This is a good man.
Pause it for 1 second. Bernie, can we talk about the way you're doing this? Nobody says they don't like me.
Yeah, that's
who are you
true.
talking about?
False
Nobody
premise.
says they don't like me.
This was over the weekend, I guess.
Just
and
go back a little bit.
you can get a sense, I think, pretty clearly here what Bernie's campaign strategy is.
Oh, yeah. Hewing close. It's a real one-on-one man type of thing. He's
Two
trying to-
adults that wanted to meet up and become friends.
Yeah, no, there's a tremendous amount of mutual consent. And they're just, trying to cruise together to victory. Go ahead.
But I don't like the man.
Bernie.
This is a good man.
Oh, yep.
This is a great
Almost doesn't even need to
American.
be said.
This man wakes up every day fighting for us, fighting for this country. He loves this country like no other leader of this nation has ever loved this country.
I just want to say, he doesn't know how I wake up. We do not
We
sleep
have
together.
Republicans that say that because they'll bend the knee to the media and they want to be their best friends, and so they'll disparage this man. How does Ohio feel about President Donald J. Trump?
Bernie's like, I won't bend the knee. I'll go down on
Thank
both
you, Bernie.
knees.
Thank you.
Little cross, Emma. That's a little too far. They took it too far.
I
It's
thought
supposed to be-
about it for a
it's supposed to be a
second.
euphemism and not explicit. Look, the Democrats are doing the sort of the same strategy that they employed in 2022. The strategy they employed in 2016, not to great effect in terms of Trump and Clinton. But in 2022, a very effective strategy by elevating the most right-wing and virulent candidate to face in the general election. And, the end of the day, it didn't work with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It's also a different dynamic when you're talking about the president versus a senator. There is no chance that Bernie Moreno is going to vote any differently than any one of the other candidates that he is running against. They vote in lockstep. None of them's going to come out and be the one vote cast against, rolling back Obamacare or cutting Social Security or cutting Medicare. They're all going to vote the same way. You got a decent argument, I think, in terms of like the presidency, like they have more latitude. They can do more damage. Right. But the marginal difference, if there's any, between, Ron Johnson and, I don't know, Lankford, if there is any difference, is there. I don't know what that difference would be in terms of different senators. So elevating a guy like Moreno, who is got a much worse chance against Sherrod Brown, good plan, and I think we'll get a sense tonight. And remember, the way they elevate him is not by saying he's a great guy. They elevate him by highlighting all of the negative aspects of right-wing Republicans. And then the Republicans go like, oh, he's our guy.
Yeah. I think that the data on this strategy has been fairly convincing. Like, this worked in Pennsylvania with the governor's race in 2022. It worked in New Hampshire against Doug Bolduc. I think that was his Don Bolduc. It's been working. And so I don't really understand the hand-wringing about it because, as you say, the Republican's a Republican. It doesn't necessarily matter. Like, we saw J.D. Vance is now fully endorsing Moreno and this whole movement.
Of course.
Where he tried to fashion himself as a different kind of Republican before. He ends up being the same kind of guy once he gets into power because you have to respond to the constituency of the Republican Party, which is insane. So this is just a shortcut to getting the insane person.
Yeah, the beauty of J.D. Vance is he went from like, I am just a rapacious financier Republican to I'm a rapacious non-financier Republican. And he was able to make that transition quite seamlessly. I think with help from the media that saw him as like the hillbilly elegy guy.
Yeah.
But do we have any more? We don't have any more with Marino. But let's let's check out. Well, we can get to that in the fun half because I want to do I just want to highlight this story. The UAW has when the UAW won its strike essentially against the big three. Sean Fain made a vow that they were going to go around and they were going to unionize as many other plants as they can around the country, and building to this crescendo in May of 2028. The Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, there was an attempt to unionize in 2014. There was an attempt to unionize in 2019. 2014, if I remember correctly, this is the one where like even the senators of Tennessee weighed in against this, which was sort of shocking at that time. Because remember, there was a complete absence of politicians on the left. And by the left, I mean center left in the Democratic Party.
Labor left.
Who even on the labor, I mean, anywhere, who would come out in favor of unionization of a plant. Barack Obama famously said, you know, I'll put on my walking shoes and I'll walk that picket line. And then apparently in the move into the White House,
yeah,
those walking shoes got lost and never to be found. That happens.
It wasn't on the list that Citigroup provided for him for his cabinet.
But I remember it was a big deal. Like Lamar Alexander, I think, came out, if I'm not mistaken, and had come out against us. And I just remember going like, what? This is nuts. Yeah. A politician getting involved in a union fight? Because we had never seen it in support of a union fight. This is, you know, Bernie Sanders was, you know, sort of a gadfly in the Senate, I think, at that point in 2014. He may have said something, but it wasn't going to get any type of press. There was nobody in the House that was like making it just wasn't covered. And then in 2019, there was another attempt to unionize this plant. And now the UAW has announced that 70% of the plant had signed union cards, which makes them feel like, okay, now we're ready. We have enough of a margin to have a union election. Now, also, under the CEMEX ruling from the National Labor Relations Board, a lot of this gets automated, it seems to me. And we got to double check on that. But it should, unless there's some reason why they shouldn't be able to, unless the plant has some sort of argument as to why they shouldn't unionize, they may get unionized automatically within a couple of weeks once they file. So this is a big deal. This is the UAW Local 42. This is also coming on the heels of the UAW announcing that they had majority sign up at the Mercedes plants. Basically what they're doing is and that's in Alabama, they announce when they get to 30%, they announce when they get to 50%, and then they move ahead with an election when they get to 70%.
And it's not a coincidence that all these things are in the South, right? Like that.
Yes.
The reason that you have politicians involved is because they were often the ones welcoming these different plants into the South by saying, "Hey, come exploit our unorganized labor." And that's exactly they came for the unions, and now the unions are coming for them.
But that's why Fain's strategy is so exciting, is because he's not like resting on his laurels with this renewed energy for the UAW. He's deciding to take the fight to exactly where it needs to be taken to, which is the South. No more exploitation down there anymore as more and more people begin to unionize and organize.
All right, let's take a break and head into the fun half, and then we will talk more about what's happening with some new polling that came out about this race. Data for Progress, I think it was, had Biden up by a point But it's really interesting. What's more interesting is some of the other questions that they asked in this. We'll also update you, obviously, on the interesting story about what's happening in the White House with Gaza and the Israel assault on the Palestinians living there and the potential for Rafah, and the sort of sense of like the SS White House has sprung a big leak in terms of like where people are. It really does have a sense of like they are trying to maybe change course here in terms of Israel, and there's like a series of like they're just backfilling the explanations for it. But we will talk about that. Old Chomsky on the IM says, yeah, the same strategy that got Adam Schiff to win in California. True. Adam Schiff employed that strategy. It's a good strategy. In this instance, I don't like the fact that Schiff was in the lead. Had Katie, well, also we know that Katie Porter, even if she had gotten Barbara Lee's votes, wouldn't have gotten into the second place because Garvey had so many votes. Now you could argue that was because of Schiff. The strategy is good. And if Katie Porter or Barbara Lee was the one who had the lead in the polls, I would tell them to employ it.
And I'm sorry, this is a different situation. You can't apply the California jungle primary structure to what Democrats are doing in other states. Elevating the more MAGA adjacent or MAGA associated Republicans to run against the Democrat in a head-to-head general is different than, whatever.
Tactic, look,
it's the same, I guess.
The tactic is the same.
Yeah.
Is it something that you should apply against, like deny people, two Democrats to run in a jungle primary? No, of course. I'm not in favor of that. Is it an effective tactic to win? Yes. If the Republicans did it, the Republicans do it insofar as they'll go out and they will, in many instances in the past, I don't know about this time around, they fund third-party tickets to the left of Democrats, and it's a similar strategy.
Yep.
So, slightly different, but it's a tactic, and I'm in favor of tactics that achieve the outcome I want. That's how I judge whether I like them or not. Whether they're effective or not is simply a question of math. That's all.
I think the broader issue people have that they're placing onto complaining about the tactic is that this is what we resort to instead of talking with Laney Newman, where we have a organized population where they can go to a union hall and hear about these things. We're left to these sorts of tactics, and I'm agnostic, but I also think it doesn't point to a healthy democracy to me that these are where our heads at.
Oh, 100% doesn't. We do not have a healthy democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, old Chomsky says Schiff elevated the MAGA candidate here. Yes, he did. He chose who he wants to face in the general election, and he chose the person he thinks he has the best chance of beating.
Yep. Yeah. I can't believe you admitted there that you work backwards from the outcomes that you want to see and determine whether the tactics work for that. It sounds like a utilitarian argument to me, but
I'm like, what's his face?
Thanos. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
Folks, just a reminder, it is your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only help the show survive and thrive, but you also get the free half, free of commercials. You make the free half exist. Just to be clear. Interviews like the one we did with Dayen today, or the one we did yesterday regarding
copyright.
Stuff that can be a little bit dry, but is important information to get out there and have on the record. It is our members who make the free show possible. So you can become a sustaining member at jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code, not chocolate, tea, or whatever.
Yeah.
Coupon code majority, get 10% off. And Seder seeds. It is March 19th. By the time you get your seeds, you put them in your trays. A little bit of dirt, a little bit of water, a little bit of humidity. Watch them grow. Then you can either put them out on your balcony or your fire escape or into your garden. And you can grow your own cannabis. I'm not going to say the word, but it's cedarsseeds.com. And if you use the coupon code majority, you get 15% off. And then you got to learn to sex them because otherwise
you'll make more seeds.
You're just going to get seeds and no buds. And then you'll make so many seeds, you'll end up competing against Cedar Seeds.
Yep. That's the Cedar Seeds origin story.
Emma.
Yes. So on ESVN yesterday, Bradley and I did a March Madness preview, which starts today. Very exciting. And then we also went through the massive stories in NFL free agency. The Steelers shaking up their quarterback room, Kirk Cousins leaving Minnesota, Saquon leaving New York. YouTube.com/ESPN show. And we also touched on the fact that FIFA has said absolutely nothing about a Palestinian star footballer being killed by Israel. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Tonight, Left Reckoning, 7 o'clock Eastern. Tom and Nisha John talking about Haiti. We get deep into the sort of gang narrative that is placed on it, and also what actually is a cause of corruption in the region. So check that out, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. David Grissom's back from honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
He was also ill.
Oh.
A little bit because of that flu that was going around.
At his wedding?
Yeah.
Dang.
Super spreader event. All right, folks. See you in the fun half. 646-257-3920.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Dayen.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Dayen.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. See white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them.
Oh. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank.